Studying Lama Sankapa Guru Yoga, the little booklet. From the heart of the Saviour's 100 deities of Tashita, on the peak of assembling a clump of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dharma, omniscient Lord Sandra, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit from my mind of faith. Please abide for 100 eons to spread the teaching. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects. Your holy speech with its explanations is the near ornament of those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory and renown. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light, scented waters, and oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, or mind, especially those opposite to the three that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and riches as manifold by abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. Saviour, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive, perfect, pure, holy Guru from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharma. Please let fall a rain of profound, extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued, exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect, pure Losang Dragpa's teaching to shine forever. Saji Pogi Joshime Trami Rablingji Nide Gampadi Sangye Shindu Mite Uva Yidro Kunamda Jila Chopasho. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his juice, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and act teachings of victorious one Losang Dragpa, who had the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of the 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Yami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of pure father and sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the open tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Page 5, three recitations of Mesema, 5-line Mesema. Meme te we te chen re si, dream kem po wam po jampo. Do pu ma lu chan san sa wa dang, gan chen ke ben sun gan sun ga po. Lo san dra be shabla so wa de. Meme te we te chen re si, dream kem po wam po jampo. Do pu ma lu chan san sa wa dang, gan chen ke ben sun gan sun ga po. Lo san dra be shabla so wa de. Me me te we te chen re si, dream kem po wam po jampo. Do pu ma lu chan san sa wa dang, gan chen ke ben sun gan sun ga pa. Lo san dra be shabla so wa de. And the prayer for swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Stravakas and Pradika Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters and all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teach, sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings who suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the oceans of the three and the grey waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.
Sangye Chedang Tsoji. I think this little bit, the sound coming here. Okay, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Good. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Sangye Chedang Tsoji Chonum La Changche Bardu Dan Jabsun Dagi Chushi Jeban Dagi Rolam Ben Sanjin Drubar Sho Sangye Chedang Tsoji Chonum La Changche Bardu Dan Jabsun Dagi Chushi Jeban Dagi Rolam Ben Sanjin Drubar Sho Sangye Chedang Tsoji Chonum La Changche Bardu Dan Jabsun Dagi Chushi Jeban Dagi Rolam Ben Sanjin Drubar Sho Kangi Tuzini Zoni Tawa Tamche Pambi Chere Tambi Chun Dunze Kodam Dela Changze Lo Namo Laye Kedan Lo Dano Zinke Tripon Dada Mi Kenam Danro Kunji Ranam Chizam Tamche Kedu Dagi Chudin Do. Good morning everyone. Shoppadile.
Shoppadile Kenla.
대리 니만 입어도 다 가진 먼저 별로 별비기 쓰던 채와나 아니 가지 사가다와레스 로 아니 사가다와 디 다와 중니 난게 아니 뒤 개발와질이야 아니 원진 체결레스 다디
Gonsin Sena Kenla? Kari Gonsin Kede?
사가다와디
네.
뒤진 개발와질이야
네.
뒤진 개발와질이야 찌기요레스
네.
찌기요 원진 체결 원진 거 찌기요레스
Diso?
야
Alitas.
그래
So good morning, everyone. So recently, the 12th Tibetan month of Sakadawa has commenced. So this is a month of great auspicious value. That's okay.
인자 다 제 단강도 더 비교 난된 게 산지비 최칭의 참말로게 제 사가다비 나올라야 믹스기 아니 추리 냠는 지야야 배준 지겨레스 가이스나 사가다비 나올라야 개와 찍체바이나 개와 붐치비기 게자 톱그레스 딘디기다 저자고레스 라
Buddhists within the Tibetan Buddhist community make great efforts in the Dharma during the month of Sakadawa because it's believed that the virtue that one accumulates during this month is multiplied 100,000 times.
인자다 남규 아니 개워직지나 개워직집이 폐유 개워자탐바사나 자탐바사는 폐유마도 아니 델리 셴바직 토샤야스다 개요마로 다 델링기 나완디 나올라야 수수 개와 가주체바티 야 아니 몸규르기 폐유 가시 개와 싸그르세고리네야 변당 고마디 개원 범집이기 폐유 누바디 토그레스 랍고고사레스 로
Perhaps the way to understand this is that the virtue that one accumulates in this time is multiplied by 100,000, which we should understand in the sense of it has the power or the potency that is 100,000 times greater than usual. That's all.
That delia Gunzen Mandra ni sort of samdan chawas. Chikaris laundi, Dawan dig nanoloya, Dawan dig, and it a pebitzi big, Sagadavi, Sebachonga Nimuti, Ani Sanjichom dentigi, that Duchin Sumzum Jilia, Sigores. Sanjichom denti, Ani Kong Lai Yun Ma, Mulaya, Geva Shibi, Ani Geva Sheba, Ani Kutamba. So Kutamba said, any Yumal Hazegi, any Ngalaya, Chabi Nimuti, Kong Hayuni, Geva Jechini, me Geva Tambo, Ami Kobalaya, Chabi Nimuti, Kutamba said.
Ale. Den konde den dampo. Ama kokpala kiasong. Ama kokpa ne kieme.
Nikim, Ami Kobanalaya, Chabares.
Gosong.
Kutamba said, in this Sigda.
Detrick.
Yeah.
So there are two reasons that establish why the power of the merit that we accumulate is so much greater in this month of Sakadawa. So the first is that on the 15th day of Sakadawa, the 15th day of this month, so in the middle of the month, then there is a threefold anniversary in relation to our founder teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. The first is that this was the day of his conception, when he entered into the realms of humans by being conceived in the womb of his mother, when he came thereby from the God realms and was abided or was conceived inside his mother's womb. So that is the first of the three anniversaries. That's all.
아니 먼저 사가다와들이야 사가다웬날이야 개워치니 개원 분귤 차야기 균생이 균생직디 사가다와디 세버정한들이야 산기 뒤진 숨좀 뒤직도 가려서는 그땅바디 직드 산기바디 직 양년인데버 숨그 뒤친 뒤숨디 아니 세버정한들이 기거레스 딘자 사가다와디 산지 좀 된 뒤기 뒤진 캐버진지인자 아니 산기기 두께 몰람라 소바 딘지기 또기 다완 디나올라야 아니 개와체바이나 디차니 개원 붐든 규르그레스 빈센직로
그렇죠. 근데 대 숨난 두진 숨난노라 디 담포 다동 디 충충레 디 다동 디 담포레
네,
네, 니pa 고성.
산기바, 숨바, 냥일데바.
네, 고성. So of these two reasons why the merit is so much more powerful within the month of Sakadawa, the first was because of the threefold anniversary on the 15th. And the three anniversaries are firstly Buddha's conception, or usually expressed as birth, in that he was entered into the realm of humans. The second is that also it's the anniversary of his enlightenment, or when he showed the attainment of enlightenment. And then thirdly, when he entered into parinirvana. So these are the three festivals that are celebrated on the 15th day of the month of Sakadawa: birth or entry into the human realm, and his enlightenment, and his passing into parinirvana. That's all.
Tadi dilanganzu chwata chwayung goresra. Karjini ani sebajonga janja kutamya dian sebajonga. Ani sanjiba dian sebajonga. Nyangal deba dian sebajonga. Tetsa maze sanji gi chungkur thoma gobi gi tudi. 아니 남주다 죽빛 세번 실라고 하더니야 아니 릭지기 죽빛 세번 실레면도스 죽빛 세번 쫑아레샤스 세번 쫑아 딘즈 산기기 아니 제바 개체슈 도서 제바 쫑아 장장을 가시니 케기어레스 세번 쫑을 답뒤는 세번 쫑아니 뭔가 끼기 세번 쫑아니 뭔가 산기기 세번 쫑아니 뭔가 아니 양인 대기 있어 딘지기 꼴홍도 여말이네 딱딱 세번 쫑을 케대야데 가르레스
Then kedan tepe chonga ki kola sungye de sebo go sungye ni tepe shipa de kola kedan chik sung sung tepe
남주
shipa.
산지기 충골급이 뒤진세줘라 주빛 세버실라 충골 담복골이 니모디 주빛 세버실에서 라야지 열다 다와 주빛 세버시 근데 릭마무지기 다와 주빛 세버실에 문도스 다와 주빛 세버 쫑아레샤스 쫑아 인고도스 쫑아 인발라야 균젠도스로 아니 뒤쪽이 차니 균젠도 아니 콜 nenga ngomzo sangiya dia sebuchongaresha ko tamba dia sebuchongaresha nyangal deba dia sebuchong kolya gunzenjindus.
The question may arise, why is the 15th day of the month, so if this is the 15th day of the Tibetan month, why is this such a special day? Because we see in the month of Sakadawa, on the 15th day of the Tibetan month, this is where there are three primary anniversaries: the anniversary of Buddha Shakyamuni's birth, enlightenment, and parinirvana. Whereas in the 6th Tibetan month, so Sakadawa is in the 12th Tibetan month, and in the 6th Tibetan month, on the 4th, this is when the wheel, the first, when Buddha, the anniversary of when Buddha first turned the wheel of Dharma. So that's on the 4th of the 6th month. Why not on the 15th? Because some say it should be on the 15th, the anniversary for the first wheel turning, the first teaching of the Dharma. That's okay.
That things sabu insares ra da dinenga the things sabu kaisana nganzogi lusum leya jarchen lusum leya ludan
Lusum sene sukpo segere sukpo
sukbodang sem gndrodan joras 디 차네 아니 세버종아디 nenga jila kigiyosares Tigilana?
Then lusum de tepachonga dan drawa yores.
Drawa mare ludan semgin drawa jorwa. Ludan semgin drawa tidang seba chonga ni chongi tusu ki bigin jongi ji rodan jorwa. Tusulan drawa ting sabu ji yungu yores.
The body and the mind, they have a close relationship. So the body and mind have a close relationship. But on the 15th of the Tibetan month, then the relationship is particularly deep. That's so?
Kandashi samdangor sila digi seba chonga nyumudiliya nganzu zambali ni tiong digi dawa chansang di shargo res.
Also.
Ra dawa chansang shargi nyumudila ani chigi nganzu namshi chanyamaya joros. Namshi penan jonga hagora. Jonga sena sach melon jonga shiseja. Ani di chanyam yores.
Di dan drawa yore.
Chanyamba. Pena kapkalaya ani tre shukchewa. Kapkalaya ani tamu shukcheya. Kapkalaya chugun jonga shukcheya. Kapkalaya megun jonga long jonga shukchejung dindri cham manyebi tone. Ani zambaling jonga shukchugni saim gayal so da yungora da. Seba chonga nyumudela 하장근 종시디 찬양 그래스. 찬양 그래서.
데니서 보고서.
어디? 디질라다.
네, 나도 직접 대변 찬양 파하기 좀.
야.
In every month, there is a 15th date. Again, this is of the Tibetan calendar. And the 15th date is when the moon is completely full. And when the moon is completely full, this has an impact on the elements that comprise our world. The elements are all perfectly in harmony. They are equal in strength. So this happens on the 15th. That's all.
Tirda nganzu chi ro ani jongwa shidi chanyambu changwandi nganzu lugi nganzu mi lungkam la ya ani nambe shongnan tan jong shi tsokpati keleng yoras tinza ani chi gin jong shi chanyamwandi lugi jong shidi chanyam gres tel tembi lugi jong shi na chanyambu yung gres Lugun Jonga shi Chanyamo Digi, Lug Tachik Sankam Guntradan la Soba, Ra, and the Chanyambu, Tell them big, and the Sam the Chanyamba. And the same Chanyamba Leon, the same Chanyam big, same that Tindi Tony gave each other some down to Vena. Hard the Mandavik, never chair you go is Takanji.
Awesome.
Sorry.
So on the 15th of this Tibetan month, there's a full moon. And at this time, the elements that comprise the world are all in equilibrium. The elements of earth, fire, water, and wind energy. These are all in equilibrium. Now, our body is also comprised of these four elements, again, of water, fire, water, wind energy, and earth. So the body is also comprised of these four elements. And when they are in an equilibrium, the mind too is in equilibrium because of the relationship, the entwined relationship between body and mind. So therefore, when the body and mind are in equilibrium, then when one's mind turns towards the Dharma, when it engages in the Dharma, one's Dharma engagement, one's Dharma practice, one's Dharma thoughts have so much more power. That's okay.
The Tinza the same Chanyamba, Ra, on the same Chamanyamba, same Misev, Sabu maybe Kabdula, some lodge Tambainaya, see which are tomorrows. See which are Matudi, Kolaya Nuba the Masun, the Shuk Chambuji Tentumaras. That same Chanyamba, same Sevu Yobi Kabdula, some lodge Tambaina, Namgita Mandavik, Nuba Chech. Tunguyanza. That did Sabachongalaya, Sabachongalaya, Sagadavid, Sabachongalaya, Bumgurki gets a tover said, they call a Nuba Chayanza. Come to this some down to one, Nuba Chayanza, and then Bumgurguri said. The Kodevuchinera Shejaman Tartuna, Tindiji Tony, Nengaji Tony, Sunguyasares.
It is difficult for us to recognize when our body and mind are in equilibrium like this on the 15th. But nevertheless, the presentation is that when the moon is full, then the elements of the world are in equilibrium. So, and we notice that the full moon has an impact on the weather. And then the elements that the same element, our body is comprised of the same elements, they are in equilibrium, and therefore our body and mind, which have this entwined relationship, are also in equilibrium. So therefore, our thoughts, our thoughts have so much more potency when in equilibrium. This is the case whether they are thoughts associated with the Dharma or thoughts not associated with the Dharma. So our focus would be on having the mind as much as possible on the topics of the Dharma or in accordance with the Dharma. So therefore, on the 15th, we can have confidence from this presentation that the virtue we create because the body and mind are in equilibrium is so much more powerful, is 100,000 times more powerful. So the virtue has that much more strength. That's okay.
Sebuchongagi Torang de la Torang Sanata, 남 담보 세위 갑둘라 대패시 추즈 니드 제가 숨바 딘디 키워드 더란디 아니 간주다 리토사 니데바이나 아니 남카 짱마 짱짠 찜바 메바이나라 아니 비기 상 탄츠 아니 다 세위 차용 그래스
Ja, nou, karma sopa selpo tongiores.
말is
Di.
비기 탄츠 니마드 샤고 말다 코란
네,
왜
네.
짜링세 샤고라
네.
이 연구어레스다 토랑 빌라야 단데 심죽 징에서 토랑라야 아니 나도 두스 주고 두스 샤친으로 아니 소수 란싱 우땅디 나우기 우가 니기 난기 우디 찬냠부 믹스의 찬냠부 레기도스 라 견댕기 비 심죽 징해지나 야지야다고 소르투고 그래서 남기 간도 따다 아니 나우 이의 유니가 나네 우 용해라야 야차 야담바 숙체조 연구요레스 갑 투디 냠바 연구도스
Biga koso.
디 가르레스나 군 좋은 찬양고연자 류컴 긴 좋은 찬양고요 아니 류 짜가 나로라야 지 롱도에 대한 찬양부진 로고요 봤자 텔 템비기 토랑기 셈디 시에 연구요 봤지 삼로지 땅마이나 지 강한 삼로 땅 거서 율펀 죽투야 니바 남기다 만다와지 땡투야라 소비 개바 연구연자 아니 개바 담번 nenjoba 망치야지 아니 남기 찻도메라 마냐와 난줄로 점바 세디 연구요레스 라 아니 쇼깅아오 야랑야 아니 gonda 다 치우진데야 쇼깅아오 라니 아니 곰갸원디 남기다 만다와기 아니 샘시위 연구레스 딘자 펜도체 연구레스 아니 믹스에 점바 치고야 균세 망부 쇼지 뒤츠드 뛰니 연구레스 딘자 뒤츠그 차니 샘검다 하장 규도 슈체모 로기요 반자 아니 산지 좀 된디 꽃담이야 대 세버정알라 케바레 상기바디야 세버정알레 냥을 데바데 세버정알레 딘자 딘지 차니 고치 말 딕샤와 마임바 코란싱기 드스레 고야게 콜레 균세 요레스 딘자 간주 다완 디 나로라야 다완 디 이게 나로라야 다와 쭉니 예비나네 다와 쭉직다 만다베기 다완 디 난기 아니 좋아 차냠 그레스 랍촉사레스라 딘자 텔레템비기 샘금 차냠부 텔레템비기 게르조 체와나 남지도 만다베 게좀 아니 슉첨부 연구여 봐지 아니 디나 토라 아니 산지 좀 된디 믹스에다 진기라비로 산지라야 이체데 대바 영이진 바나 산지 진기라비기 믹스에 다와 캬바진지 차와 딘지라 템비기 소수기다 대바다 아니 남주다 아니 존줄라 소바 참만 때니 다반 디나라라 게조체와나 야자야다마 게라부치 사그여서레스
In die Tame der Yankasungsan, Gertrud Shaka Tupala, Depa Shukchampo Yotsang, Konso di Jinap Shukchampo Shugi Yores, in die Detane Kerang Shempa Chik Sungsung Tsundu Dang
Susu Namjugora, Susu Namjayabu, Rigbasebu, and it's Sundu. And then Chona Sanji Jamdela, Teba Yovana, that this some jaggy, and it's Susu Geva Labochin Drag, Gurdores.
Russell. Those who are actual yogins, the way those who are actual yogins, they use the equilibrium of the elements and therefore of the mind on the whenever there's a full moon on the 15th in a particular way. So they'll get up very early in the morning, because really it's from probably about 2:33 in the morning that one on the 15th of every month, that one, especially for actual yogins, who can experience the equilibrium of the body and the mind. So usually when we meditate, the breath that leaves our nostrils leads with a sometimes from one nostril a little stronger, other times from the other nostril a little stronger. But on the 15th, when the elements are in equilibrium, and therefore the mind with the elements are two, or the mind with the body are two, are also in equilibrium, then one can experience that the wind, the breath is leaving the two nostrils at an equal rate, so the same strength from each nostril. So that is a way that one can experience that now there's something different. The wind energy and therefore the mind that travels on that is much more in harmony or in equilibrium than usual. So therefore, yogins will get up early in the morning and meditate with great vigor throughout the day, in the early morning, right through to the end of the evening, because they will be able to experience that the meditation ability is enhanced when the moon is full. So because of the equilibrium that arises on the 15th when the moon is full, this was when Buddha chose to enter the world, as well as show the attainments of enlightenment, and to leave the world, because these are the days when practice is stronger. These are the days when one can achieve a greater result than usual. So now then to look at this particular month, the 12th month, the month of Sakadawa that has now just commenced. Here, with the elements being in harmony, the elements again of earth and fire and water and wind energy being in harmony, then so too is this will the outer elements as well as the elements of our body, and therefore have an impact on our mind, and our mind also being in equilibrium rather than in harmony, in equilibrium. So those who have stable trust in the Buddha or faith in the Buddha, they will utilize the mind that is now in a greater state of equilibrium, and in a greater state of equilibrium, to engage in virtuous practices. And they will find that the practices of generosity, ethical restraint, and with generosity powered by their faith or trust in the Buddha, will lead to greater merit being accumulated. So the faith and choice, perseverance, these have a very definite impact. So one has faith in the presentation of the Buddha, therefore knows that the month of Sakadawa has greater potency, and therefore one will make greater endeavors in generosity, ethical restraint, and thereby accumulate far more merit. That's okay.
저당 안도 다 추측 단 토모 마인비 아니 남비 추측지라 그러 개와셋 이번에 라
건데 뭐전에 성역한
and then the 저당 개와디 개와셋이 아니 차와질샤 다바 예치온디다 망부 연거다 지금 단 뒤제던 디마치 니치는 단 디마치 개어여다 메시지로 아니 지 베나 소소 땅고라 소바다 개어인다 많이 딘디시야와나 아니
건데 갱갱게 드링키민도 그래서 두마친 식당에 드링키민도 건데 디 조딩에 고기민도 차디 고기민도 두마친에 드링키민도
두마치 저 고문데 두마치에서는 딱 봐라 딱 봐다 딱 봐니
네네네.
두제던 두마치니 있으라라. 두제던 두마치니 있으라라. 하고서.
답을 답하던 게도. 예, 두첸 두마첸.
균의 두니 트로샤와들이야. 두체스 두직추. 두마치비추.
고선.
하고서. 남규다 개와델라 리니첸 두제기 개와지단 두마지 개와 니칭이 다 니용거레스 이나 만치아디 개와디 두제기 개와레스 교다 견라데니 총사비 개와지레스 다 디임바나다 대야 만치아 자와질라 샤초그레스 개와싱이 자와질라 샤초그레스 다 자와 개위 자와 제고레스 라운디 개와디 아니 간주다 추 토모마이비 다지긴 바이네야 디츠지 추다 만제와 있던 키바이나 아니 제 롱위 자와 아니 제 모롱위 자와서나 인지미 추인고기 말했어. 제 롱위 자와 제 롱위 자와 제바이나 아니 제 모롱위 자와 참만 가르야지. 디 제바이나 된기 아니 개와 디바 판세야 차고레스. 로 다 조디야 류가 이송 그 자와 요레스 다 류기 아니 제 모롱아디 카레스나 아니 셴라 셴기 속제 모롱아 셴기 속제 소수 속제 롱고 말아 소수 속제는 소수는 대범에와 난 셴기 셴기 속제는 셴은 대범요 말아 대디 참부 많이 봐디 모롱아지레스 라 간지 아니 랑기 되기 체도 셴라야 류가 강기 권니까 아니 소수 되기 체도 셴라 네버 땅 모롱아 텔라야 류가기 개와세 그레스 다 샘기 개와디 아니 가르스디 다 조조디 뭐여 내술 따고야디 뭐여 내술이 개비기 신줄로 따수딜이야 아니 샘기 미개와세 그레스 다 디스음래야 주바이나 다완 디나와야 텔라야 가주스기 디톨에 상당 투바이나 아니 네버 된기 아니 개와드 디바빵거레스 아니 개와드 디바싱이 다케 만나 바이나야 된다는 dig되고라서 된다는 dig되고라서
Let's look at this Dharma word, virtue, and what it means. So virtue can be looked at in quite fine detail, discussing whether it's a compounded phenomenon or non-compounded phenomenon, because there are virtues of both types, some which are compounded and some which are non-compounded or permanent. But the vast majority are compounded, in other words, independent on causes. So let's talk about virtue in terms of the vast majority of virtues, of what is virtue, compounded phenomena, things which the gathering together. So the way to understand, there are several ways to approach this. The way I'll take is to think of virtue as activity. In activity, there can be that which is appropriate or suitable, and that which is inappropriate or not suitable activity. So what is not appropriate or not suitable, this is what we'd call non-virtue or non-virtuous behavior. So this behavior that is, or activity that is inappropriate or unsuitable, this one should refrain from because it's unsuitable or inappropriate. And this is what is meant by non-virtue. And then this can be divided into activity of the body, activity of the speech, and activity of the mind. So there are three types of virtue, three types of activity, and both dividing into suitable and unsuitable. So what we see as being unsuitable or inappropriate, this one should stop from. So for example, killing, taking life, because this is clearly inappropriate or unsuitable because no one wants to be on the recipient, be the recipient of someone taking life, of being killed. So clearly this is unsuitable, and this therefore one should refrain from such activity. So that's an illustration of unsuitable activity of the body or non-virtuous physical behavior, as would be stealing and sexual misconduct. So there are these different kinds of unsuitable or inappropriate physical activity, as well as verbal activity. So these would be the non-virtuous physical and verbal behavior to refrain from because it's unsuitable or inappropriate or non-virtuous. Then in terms of mental activity, what makes mental activity virtuous or non-virtuous, appropriate or inappropriate, is whether it is in accordance with reality or not. So if the mind is in accordance with reality, then we'd say the mind is virtuous. If the mind is discordant or not in accordance with reality, then we would say that it's engaged in behavior which is inappropriate, unsuitable, and therefore should be refrained from. So in this way, one can understand what is meant by virtue. Virtue is activity, and it can be divided into that which is appropriate or inappropriate, virtuous and non-virtuous, and expressed through the body, the speech, and the mind. Recognizing then what is inappropriate or non-virtuous, and in the mental level, not in accordance with reality, then one actively refrains from such activity, such behavior. That's all again.
Busse çok maret slavena. Mikachigi laxos lavtugra. Kachin lagrada. Kachin game busse çok maret. Ngangara rawan yes. Jasa jadam lagras. The chik çok maret slavena. Chik çok maret slavena. Manzu mi mangbu jigi semkom laya. Shunguyo marasra. The dili any manzu changbu chigore slavena. Mi manjik semkom la. Didi yin samsam rachik. Manzu rawan gore slavena. Tesan zambali mamang chegi. Rawan di showcase mutzigora. The rawan di susu chikbu rawan mayimba. Tamjek rawan la ya samdamena. Ani sheng so choya di sheng rawan choya geta ta dukshidroda. Rawan choya dukshid so choya di lagi rawan choya ji yomarada. Tinza ani ta rawan gogde sedingi jigi mijigi sheng rawan chok debayna. Kani shebatan suzuki laglen taya ni tsawa ni digma sonsero. Tinda kanji ngone sanji chele ya sanji chomden di labjala ya sang damayna. Yacha gyan gyatam zambali shidi yong labja chi mato ani chi yo samares ta chi kyang yo samares ro.
We take a quite straightforward advice that Buddhists would give, which is do not kill, do not take life at all, not even the smallest of insects. So this is a very common advice, and for you to be no surprise to hear something like this being said. But there'll be others who hear advice like this and say, who are you to tell me not to kill, especially insects when they annoy me? I have free will, I have freedom, I can kill if I want to. So there are people who would not accept guidance like this. So how to approach this then in our context of discussing virtue and non-virtue would be that in our world, probably everyone agrees that freedom is very important. So this would be widely accepted that people should have freedom. So that one wouldn't disagree with, but we should then beyond extend our way of thinking beyond only demanding our own freedom, but accept that all others have an equal wish for freedom and have as much right to freedom as I do. Our individual wish and right to freedom is shared equally amongst all beings. Therefore, if one accepts that, then acting against the free will or the freedom, the wishes of others, this is unacceptable, because it is not the wish of some insect to have their life taken. When one thinks like this, one can come to recognize in the same way that I value and am entitled to freedom, so too are those around me, of whatever life form they are. So that would be the wiser way to approach this. And in fact, if you take Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, everything he taught, all the advice he gave was directed solely at achieving peace throughout the world, not for a select few, but for each and every single being. So everything the Buddha taught was directed to the accomplishment of this final goal, peace throughout the world, throughout all the beings in all the worlds. That's what Kela.
데리다 딘자 간주기 속착 참말로야 다 루셈 이었다로 루셈 이었다 다 룰레 네바타니 둥가 용야지다 셈라야 폭둑다니 둥가 용야 고니 소르진도 아스라 딘자 미셴기 소수 셈라야 아니 뇌야기 깨지시 셔바나 아니 마기바 슈즈 레기도 아스라 딘난신기 미셴라야 아니 콜레야 뇌비 식 배주 제바나 파쇼미 셈라야 뇌야 마기바이 로야게 아니 규차가자 간지 류셈 니칼야 셴그 류셈 니칼야 만네바치 토니 아니 수수 데키 드야게 탑람직 야자야다 요사레스 라 당한 잠블린드 나마다 딘리진 로트바나 다 당원의 시대생이지 라 시대다 아니 변했다 돈로다 보이나 다 돈로를 간서 밀어야 믹스게 남주여랬다 미iten데 슈즈레스야 되디 소들한다 다 돈로 릭지 임바이나 탑시 써니면도 변은 젠젠도 딱도 식도 임바이나 아니 지 신지 산이 고초기고다다 아 소차 신지 센마도 kon자다 아니 신도도 사싱문다 그 레드리지 판샤라다 제스키문다 당한수 미인자 원에 직비 아니 남주 만다지 여바다 탑시 만다지 여바다 란다신 직바 임비기 섬로 땅투야 로 안직지래야 로버체투야 딘지기 니버 믹스여져서 먼저 디 니버 믹스어 다보자 디 송접치 디 산지 좀 된디 간다지 송접치다 간다지 송디 텔레 로종친 지금 들어봐이나 아니 간서 사가다와기 뒤전 약슈치 다 남바인 바이나 다 사가다위기 다 송지 약슈디 좀 된디 제덴 약슈디 디차고사리스
Yakshare, Shakatupagi Kalop de Kola Samlotang. Di Yaksha Sumpimpe.
디
Now, let's think about this act of killing at a deeper level. There are two ways that we can bring harm to others. The one that is most obvious is towards the body, where we can physically harm another being, such as taking their life. But the other way we can harm is through expressing our rage, our desire, whatever it may be, expressing it not physically, but verbally, and in this way harming someone. Because we know that through speech, great harm can be brought to beings, a deep lasting pain through hearing harmful speech. So when one thinks that we take killing and expand its meaning to that of bringing harm to others, this can physically be expressed, but also verbally. And in both ways, we harm the other. We harm their body or we harm their mind. Now, if we think about how would it be if everyone in our vicinity, in fact, everyone in this entire world, refrained from bringing harm to others, we would live in a world of peace. We each individually would be at peace. We'd be at peace with our neighbors. We'd be at peace with our society, and the entire world would abide in peace, because we would refrain our mind from expressing any harm towards others, whether expressing it physically or verbally. Now, if we think like this, immediately we can recognize some challenges. So let's say amongst animals, there are those who are predators. So for predators, they really are in a quite pitiful situation, because they have to sustain their body, to sustain their life, they need to eat the flesh of others. They really don't have a choice. For a lion or a tiger or a leopard, an abundance of flowers and fruit just will not enable them to sustain their life. But humans, for us, it is really very different. We have this incredible, remarkable human intelligence that really makes us stand out from others, from other types of beings. We can hear the teachings of the Buddha. We have the capacity to hear words and understand their meaning. But not only can we hear advice and understand it, but we can then reflect on it, think about it, contemplate the meaning. And through doing so repeatedly, we can radically transform our way of thinking. And thereby, through transforming our way of thinking, our mental activity will change. And thereby our speech will change and our physical behavior will change. And it will change in a way that is deep and lasting, in direct proportion to how much we change our way of thinking, which itself comes about in proportion, direct proportion to how much we reflect on the advice or the teachings that we receive. So in this incredible month of Sakadawa, this is the very, very best way that you can utilize your time, utilize your energy. The very best activity you can engage in is to hear and to reflect deeply. That's okay.
Terda Sakadawa Nangla Yama, check Manitangores. Manitangor. The Manitang Nimbo Zoro di Ninji Gomedreshas. Rata Ninji Gom Slaundi, Tanjishivanaji, Sumjantam Che, Devan Devata, Dungamundeva, Chigur. Chigures, Chibuchigares, Ra. Chibuchigan and some Kazutan, Chibuchigan model. Chigi. 개발사원이 말이에요. 그래서 탐체 대화 되고 동안 되면서 탐체 동안 되면 동안들한테 지만은 냠비기 싸움들이 텔라 인지 세거래스. 텔라 인지 세거래스. 탐체 대화 되는 지만은 냠바디 텔라에 장바 세거래스. 디 양양 싸움다 아니 디 냠도다 비기 싸움도 텔라에 찌직도 땀 맞추고 갑둘라 아니 마네장 Manedang. Manedi and in power cherries sengares. Power cherries di and in ninji gilares. Ninjigila. That dini Hudaba the teacher, Deni Sujoni Kalasa Kadina, and it Sagadavana, Karjon, and it Shamek Kalat in the Setuana, and it Suzuki, and Yamneche de Ninji Compal the Royalaya. Pancreas. This Sunguda, Ani Tanda Java Kundin Tambo, Javarmuchi, Dalilama Kundin Tamboyora, and Java Gendun Truki, Sonjin on yours.
Java Gendun Su?
Gendun Trup, Java
Gendun Druk.
Gendun Trupa, Gendun Trup said that Java Gendun Truki, Carson or Islana. Sha Sebaina, Chamba Chambu Yamdores. Rather, Shang Shassing the Shang Luni Chebi Tini Tirada Luni Chebi. And it's so trial so Tini Yungora the Ra. Somebody was down by now. Where was it? Shanasauredo the Ra. Tinza, the Susu sometimes the Dunga the Chimorania, there was the Chimorania below the Django ordinary. Chok Chigni, Piggy, any Shassiondi. Gasha Yadama Samlo didang Gardores, Tins the Champa Yamyagi, Monegi Ninji Gomdungi, Champa Gomdungi, Jimbaina, Yashudi, Shamet and the Yashures. Tanganzuya, Lu Kamki Tony, Treman Tredan, and it's Dindi Yombaina, that Ming Surdi. Mengsurda that this is Tembaina, that Digordina Yakshudi Shamasawa Yakshi Dreshas, the Ninji the Chambagong Chimbana.
Awesome. So how do the vast majority in the Tibetan Buddhist world use this month of Sakadawa? Because I've just mentioned that the very best thing to do is to reflect deeply on teachings, to hear teachings and reflect on their meaning. So the vast majority in our Tibetan Buddhist world, they use this month to recite the Mani mantra. Meaning of the Mani mantra, or Mani Padme Hum, is that it is the name mantra of Chenrezig, the deity of compassion. So therefore, when the activity of reciting the Mani mantra is engaged in, it follows the prior contemplation of love and compassion. And whilst it's being recited, the contemplation of love and compassion will continue. This is how one should be reciting mantras, such as in this case, Om Mani Padme Hum. And the way then one would start is to first reflect on the quality of beings, that on a fundamental level, there is no difference between me and any other being, whether human, animal, or unseen. On a fundamental level, we all want happiness. We want to abide in pleasurable experience after pleasurable experience, never punctuated by even a moment of suffering. And there's no one we can point to that is different from this. Everyone, no matter how they live their lives, no matter what class of being they are, there's no being who is different from this. The fundamental level, all the differences that we observe fade away, and we are all truly equal in wanting happiness and to live freed of suffering. So this is the case for each and every single being. Here then, we reflect on this deeper, generating the wish, may all beings abide in lasting happiness. And this sincere aspiration for beings to abide, to fulfill their wish and abide in lasting happiness, this is the meditation on love. And then this would be accompanied by the thought, to abide in lasting happiness, may they be completely freed from all pain, all suffering, every difficulty. May they be completely freed of that. So wanting them to be freed of suffering is the meditation on compassion. So this is what one then generates in one's heart and then recites Om Mani Padme Hum. And whilst one recites Om Mani Padme Hum, one will keep the feeling of love and compassion directed to all beings without exception, and will keep this deep within one's heart. So here then, one is encouraged in this Mantra Sakadawa to make as much effort as possible in this meditation on love and compassion and the recitation of the Mani mantra. Then in addition to this, it's very common in our Tibetan Buddhist world for the 12th month of the Tibetan calendar, the Mantra Sakadawa, for people who generally eat meat to refrain from eating meat, to have a vegetarian month. And this comes from advice from the first Dalai Lama, the conqueror Gendun Druk. So he advised that if one does eat meat, this has an impact on one's love and compassion, because the eating of the flesh of an animal, or rather the flesh of the animal that one is eating, was obtained through that animal's life being taken, that animal being killed. This is an inescapable truth. So therefore, when one is eating the meat of the flesh of a being that longed for happiness, to be freed of suffering, we actually are participating in an indirect manner in its suffering, in its misery, in the taking of its life. Therefore, if one reflects well on love and compassion, recognizing that no being wants to suffer, no being wants to be killed, no being wants their flesh to be eaten, then one should refrain from eating meat. If one does not, this will have an impact on one's love and compassion. This was the advice from the first Dalai Lama, Gendun Druk. And that being said, there is of course the caveat that those whose physical health genuinely requires them to eat meat for their health to be sustained, then that's a different story. But they nevertheless should be aware of this and hold to the aspiration to be able to refrain from meat within this life or a future life. So it's very best if one can be vegetarian. And if in general this is difficult for you, at least in this month, if that is still difficult for you, because of your physical requirements, then this is understandable, but then just hold to the aspiration. So therefore, in brief, the way that the vast majority in our Tibetan world, the Tibetan Buddhist world, engage in the accumulation of virtue in this month is to meditate on love and compassion and recite Om Mani Padme Hum whilst holding love and compassion in their heart. That's okay.
Teda tenza sangi ta chuge nimbudi ninji dreshas ninji chanju samse chuge nimbot do spot teondige ngonita shidig zawadia ninji drendos ani penata chig chamtyung zawadia ninji drendoda a zawa ninji seti
Jamtun Sena?
tumbu용야 펜준 tumbu용야 조보다 조보 빨아라야 tumbu용야 남미 빨아라야 참분 tumbu용야 돼 찌찌라야 닌지용 제와요 와이나 tumbu용 거로 왔어 간지 다딩안도 참말로야 라 참말로야 직 소차이 여쭤볼래야 근데 젠진 비기 딱 힘바이네야 아니 직 소수 부족을 제어여디 아니 부족디 소고도 왔어 됐다 제어여 봐이나 강라 제어여사기 대단 통부용고도 왔어 아니 제어라위니 모델라 되네 만점 맞아버지 다 제어라야 교카르스라온디 직디 아니 탑투바디 몽바테레스 몽비왕기 세와 체싱게요 말이스 아니 몽발라 템베게 지 랑다 셴세게 베 아니 초그리 삼바치 아니 슈크쳔보치 랑슬라온디 지 셴라 자원이 되문고 랑지여바치 지니 아니 델라 차비 차바 델라 셴비기 셴바 아니 어딘지게 아니 제와 용약이 엔 람가다 무슨 까고 와서라스 더 뒤조 파 장모 소야게 탑람 냐치디 아니 산기 랍자나로 야다 떼요레스 로 떼요레스 다디고 추켈레나 말레나 수수 델야 랍주바나 게 야지 야탐바 수수 머제나로야 수수 샘컴라 야지 야탐바 팽그레스 로
The very heart of Buddhism, the essence itself of Buddhism is compassion. To the extent that compassion arises in one's heart, one will be at peace. The extent that we are surrounded by others who also have compassion, we will be in their hearts. We will be in a peaceful, harmonious community. In fact, in the communities that one lives in, whether it's one's family unit or whatever community one is in, even if only you generate stable compassion within you, this will have a profound impact on those around you. It will bring greater harmonious relationships, certainly from your expression towards others and the way you receive their expression towards you. Your heart will remain compassionate. Therefore, you will remain close to them. This is a clear outcome of generating a compassionate heart. You are more at peace. And those around you, you have a more harmonious relationship with them. There's a direct relationship here between the strength of compassion in your heart and your amount of inner peace and the relationship you have with others. The harmonious relationship you have with others. Here, this is something that I'm sure that you hear and everyone would aspire to being such a person. And certainly, many times, compassion does dominate us. But why do we lose our compassion? Why do we lose our love towards others? Well, the primary reason is that of ignorance. The ignorance or the confusion ignorant confusion that leads one to forget what one has learned and meditated on. Forgetting, for example, that there is no fundamental difference between myself and the person before me, the person I'm speaking to, the person I'm even thinking of. There's no fundamental difference between us. We all want happiness. We all want happiness. We want to abide free of pain and difficulties. Forgetting this, we divide into groups, us and them, me and you. And this then would be expressed as when others are not acting in accordance with our wishes, in other words, in accordance with our attachment, which arises from ignorance, then anger arises. We push them away. We express this physically or verbally. So therefore, the primary reason why we lose our tender heart, why we close to others, is our confused ignorance, where we forget how we really are at a fundamental level, all the same. So therefore, the solution is very clear, is to rely on the teachings of the Buddha. If we rely on the teachings of the Buddha, wisdom and love and compassion will arise naturally within us. And to the extent we familiarize ourselves to these minds, they'll become habituated to us. And this way of thinking, the teachings of the Buddha, particularly in relation to love and compassion, these will benefit all beings, whether Buddhist or not. This is then the solution to a cold heart. A hard heart is to reflect on love, compassion, and wisdom. That's okay.
쇼킹하고 야랑으로 쇼킹하고 추수숨도 제가 또 랑기 용감한자 야랑다 더 사가다와레 삼성로지 사가다와 나랑원이 지 단인지들 가서 두두 지 공고를 삼사다 장봉시야는라 다 다이나디 뒤서 참아비 공래 땅통 말하다 공자일 땅통 말아 아두디 디셔래야 만년대야라 소바다 아니 지 닌지게 당 닌지곰 비기 따름바마 땡땡이 변의 전주다와 소바 아니 어두지 강가송들 아니 가로 가와되나야 아니 대원 되바다 동안 문제바 지규렌도 문도 티 가든 따쳐고다스라 티때바이나 샘딩이 다 대원 되바다 동안 문제바 자자 자다마 지규레샤 삼비 니바지 니 투사라스라 티니바이나 아니 소수 동안 문제바 나시 파쇼마 동안 문제바 지바라 삼성 로티에 용야 이제 소수 동안 마요나 삼비게 초여바 나시 파쇼마 데라 동안지 마요로 치나 제마로 냠비 초와디 덴데 용 촉사레스 다 딜레반다 닌지레 다 디니손다 캐나 베마즈바다 야부차도다스 라간서 야부차도다스 딘자 먼저 사가다와 디나노라야 홀다 바닥 뇽네를 대통해서 뇽네를 대고 야부베레 뇽네를 대마투바이나야 닌지 홀다바다고 마네 홀다바다사 아니 존을 존중해서 버티 세토가나 오늘 베마스 야부여서레스 라 디지라니 조자테 디지
For those who can, get up early during this month of Sakadawa. Get up at 3:30 in the morning and remind yourself immediately, this is the month of Sakadawa. This is my opportunity to reflect on compassion. So recognize not everyone, because of their individual circumstances, can do this. But whenever you are able to get up, immediately remind yourself, this is the month of Sakadawa. This is my opportunity to reflect on compassion. And then meditate in the way that are presented. It's quite straightforward, and for most people, this should be entirely accessible. And generate an openness towards others, a tenderness towards others. And with these feelings of love and compassion, recite the Mani mantra, trying to retain this open heart towards others. And then throughout, you start your day like this, and then try and keep this present in your mind throughout your day, throughout all your activities. And also when you have the opportunity read a bit of Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva's way of life. Especially if the meditation's something you're not too familiar with, read the text. This will help. And therefore, to the extent that one can do this, keep in your heart throughout the day, when you're doing your meditation, set the motivation that for today, everyone I meet, I will not harm them. I won't harm their body, and I won't harm their mind through hurtful speech. Set this as your commitment for the day. Remind yourself of this throughout the day, as well as the reason behind this, because the person I'm about to encounter is no different from me. They don't want to experience any pain, just want a happy, positive encounter, and I will ensure that I do this. And then set this commitment, remind yourself of it throughout the day, and have the commitment until one goes to sleep. And then the next day, rise, immediately remind yourself in the same way, Sakadawa, this is my chance to develop a compassionate heart, meditate on the way I advise, recite the Mani mantra, read some of Shantideva, and keep this fresh in your mind throughout your day and generate it before every encounter. Always reminding yourself of whoever I'm directly meeting or indirectly you're thinking about or you're hearing their voice are no different from me, wanting to abide in happiness. So this is my practice advice for you for this month, that this is an ideal time to join with all others in our Buddhist world, in our Tibetan Buddhist world, to use this month of Sakadawa to strengthen your habituation to compassion through the meditation as I've presented it, through the recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum, and through reading Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva's way of life. That's okay now. If you have some questions, then please do feel free to ask now.
Just ask a question about the translation. So the Sakadawa, month of Sakadawa, Tibetan Sakadawa month, is the 4th month in Tibetan. It was translated as the 12th month. Oh, maybe he was saying 4th and I heard 12.
The Perda Shipa Yamuna Chuni, Nge Chuni Lapien.
Perda Shipa.
Perda Shipa. Sorry, no, I did say the 12th, but it is, as you correctly identify, the 4th month. Thank you.
Oh, 4 month. Then some
The Tibetan and Western calendar do not always match. So sometimes it's in April, sometimes it's in May, the 4th or the 5th, in April or May. Perda Shipa Perda Ngapa, Dimare, Chinda Shipa Chinda Ngapa.
Penda Shipa.
Perda Shipa re?
Penda Shipi Sebachi Kazan and Gotsugores.
There. Then it's sometimes the Chida Shipa Ngapa there. Yeah, so the 4th Tibetan month sometimes falls in the 4th Western month or the 5th Western month. That's all.
I have a general question about my experience here at the centre, especially in regards to prayer compared with the lesson that we have heard today. The lesson I heard today was rich and I appreciate it very much. The thing that strikes me with what I heard in the lesson compared with the prayers that we say in the prayer book is that the lesson was delivered at a conversational speed, so I could understand and appreciate everything that was said. When we speak, when prayers happen at the pujas and even introducing today, it's spoken much faster. and I almost have trouble keeping up with what I am saying, with what I'm chanting. So I have trouble experiencing and feeling what it is that I am saying. And that puzzles me because for me, my prayer, when I go at the speed that everybody else is going, is, I believe, less effective for me than if I was to speak at the speed that your translator has delivered our lesson today. So I was just wondering if you can comment on that. Is it a typical part of Tibetan culture that prayers get spoken very fast? And what would be that purpose?
Thank you. Dene ki lopsen nge premise pigapo ye dene tuchena shikia nge semlangan ni pento tempo yede. Dene kedan ki sung yede nge dundepo gosong kadensa di kekyo kong kyopo lapkio made kale cheni lapkio de. Yini ngazo chetsokla ngazo monlam dön yamene tok dene ngazo gang gyokyo dön ki yodes. Dene kekyo gyabdu deni kali chini lab deni de dönda ki kola samlo tam tokide yine ngaso di monlam yamena tsok de döndu gang kyokyo döndu he lokakpore hezen gyopo döngi yades in lokapo yine deni tenten de döngi kola samlo tam kakpore deni semsor mixel kia kakpore deni kondi labmasong yine dönda tisen yopsre yine di kong sigde labmasong deni di kola chiksungu han kasi di pögyo nangten di namkyo nangsin yina ngazo tsog yamena monlam gangkyo kyokten kidepe di namkyo nangsin yina di pento kadere di kola dokpa ya.
Tadiri se nganzu monlam rikchik tutsu chik na sargo gores. Ani lamluk do chik tone. choga chik denba는 choga de sargo goras. Sarya la kalichin dendebaina ani chuzu mambung gorro goras. Amazul tizoyo marda di chikla gyobuchin sargo gyonza kapkalan gyobun dengores. Te di samlo pi shib sabu tangmaduna ya koran sar chik denbigi ku tsik sangbuji inbainza sar chik denbigi gewajik Chava yagaji, ranga ki chava yagaji, gacha jataman rogu yorwas. Ani di ko di choga de madde na sosu nan ro de deba na sigda manda kechanda manda shen ro chagdan kiela sobata mele genju chela sobata tindi rig mangbuji chesig ro asa nganzu mege tili gomba na yo dembo den shawa na di tizero de samadi chawa yagajile kiroros. The Dindiga Samlo Tang ni Chigores, Ra Chigores. Teni Mang Chajigi, Demba di Penal, that you love Jong Chets in by na. That you Yobo gom to yadi, sick the Pemas of Yabuyores. Ra Jan sang in Jigi, sick the Yobon den to sick them and Nanshingi, Tenda de Yobo Sosus Semlama. Pandik Tugres. Tigi Kabayores. Teaching Demandian Gores.
So when one is either doing a puja or doing dedication prayers, there is a set amount of time that one has to recite what one has. Hence, it goes quite quickly, because if one were to recite the same prayers at a slower pace, then it would take really a very, very long time to, whether it's to dedicate or whether it's to engage in a puja. But what I can say with certainty is in the time that it takes to recite, whether it's a set of prayers or a puja in its entirety, one accumulates virtue. Through the recitation of the entire activity. So when one is at home, then one talks in a relaxed way, chatting about a wide variety of things. But when one comes here, ideally, all those thoughts should be left behind. One's mind should be on the Dharma. And then when one is reciting, then one's mind should ideally be on the Dharma, on what one is reciting. So quite a different experience. Now, in terms of, so for those who have studied well, who have an okay understanding of the Dharma, as they recite, even at this quick pace, because they are quite familiar with what is being recited, but in particular with the meaning behind there, so they're familiar through hearing it and reflecting on it, that meaning will quickly arise in their mind. And as they're reciting and moving through the prayers or the puja at quite a pace, those various thoughts in the correct sequence will arise. So as one is reciting and moving through the liturgy, the meaning, because one has heard it before and reflected on the meaning, this will rapidly arise within one, and therefore, whilst one is reciting at a pace, one's mind is engaging with the meaning of what is being recited. So in brief, this comes about because of familiarity that has come through hearing and reflecting on the Dharma for a while. That's okay.
Thank you.
So we recite the final Lamim dedication prayer in the end of the booklet. From my two types of merits, vast space that I have amassed from working with effort at this for a great length of time, may I become a chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best and complete greater paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness in the minds of all beings. With the points of the path as I have discerned them, may I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal the treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this greater path to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons, may all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing their excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives in the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones. May oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.